After tonight's Broncos win, we got some absolutely shocking news from Sean Payton as he revealed that Bo Nix suffered an ankle fracture supposedly on this play in overtime and is going to need surgery, keeping him out for the rest of the season. We'll look at this play in more detail to see what in the world actually happened here for the Broncos quarterback. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and the goal in this channel is to teach more about the medical side of the sports world. Now, this is one of the more surprising injuries that I've covered on this channel's history because there was nothing that I could see initially in the game in real time that made me concerned about a fracture for Bo Nix. Like, usually if somebody has an ankle fracture that needs surgery, you're going to be able to tell. You're going to be able to tell that they're limping around, that they're coming up hobbling after a play. Some sort of sign or thing you can observe. And with Nix, we truly saw nothing. Sean Payton said after the game that it happened on the second to last play in overtime, right before he threw the ball down to Mims. And so that was this play. It was this designed quarterback run where we see Nix going out to his side. And remember, when we think about ankle injuries, joint injuries, you've got to remember it's not always just contact. There can be non-contact things. So we're trying to look at his right ankle and see, was there any significant amount of rotational load? Was there any sort of abnormal torque positioning? I thought potentially right there as he goes to change directions and push off that right ankle. We'll look at another view where maybe there was some eversion forced through the inside of his ankle. We can see then here as he plants and pushes off, nothing. As he goes down to the ground, we don't see anybody land on him. In fact, you can see a little bit of his right ankle and foot right down there, and it doesn't look like it's in any significantly abnormal position when we look at it from this side play. Some people are saying that it was when he knelt the ball that he came up, and I agree, he clearly came up limping here. But even if we look through this play, there still was like nothing that would make me clearly say that he had a play where he broke his ankle. You can see here as he goes to step back, nothing. He goes down and he avoids putting a lot of the weight on that right side, right? He kneels down on the right knee, but the weight is on his left. As he comes up, nobody steps on him, nobody pushes him, nobody falls on him, but we can clearly see him limping off the field right here with a definitely abnormal gait. Now, finally, if we look at this view, I do think it was this play where the injury occurred because of a couple of things that we can observe on that right foot. And we'll dive into those in more detail and then what the injuries could be. But first, a quick shout out from the sponsor of today's video. Today's video is sponsored by Momentous. Momentous didn't invent creatine, but they certainly have perfected it, especially when it comes to their creatine chews. With 1 gram of CreaPure creatine per chew, they're the perfect addition to your supplement arsenal. Creatine is one of the most research-backed supplements. I take it every day, and it's one of the most popular recommendations I have for my patients. Beyond the more known effects with boosting power, strength, and high-intensity output with exercise, creatine has also been shown to help support brain function, which is a big reason why I take it. Right now, you can try these Momentous creatine chews for yourself by heading to the link in the description to get up to 35% off and use my promo code BRIANMD. I love the convenience of these chewable tablets, right? There's gummies, but those tend to get kind of mushy and nasty if you leave them out in the heat. Powders can be a little bit messy and harder to work with on the go, but these chewable tablets are really nice and convenient. Pop 5 of them in a day for a full serving, and you're good to go. It's the first chewable creatine done right. Trusted by 200 plus pro and college teams, Momentous Creatine and their chewable tabs are the perfect addition to up your 2026 supplement and health regime. Thanks again to Momentous for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to our learning. So here on this play, as we're looking from behind, there's 2 moments that I think we have to pay close attention to. As Nix is going out to the side, we can see right here, if you look at the position of his right foot and ankle, you'll see that his ankle is a little bit everted, right? If you draw a line from the tibia coming down, even though he's not dropping into a significantly everted position, this spot is going to put a lot of eversion stress on the medial structures in his ankle. The deltoid ligaments, things like the tarsal tunnel structures, the posterior tibialis. And so this is a position where as his ankle muscles are trying to fire and stabilize, that is going to put some increased stress on the medial structures of his ankle. Nothing on the lateral side. As this play continues here, still nothing, but then right there as he goes down onto the field is when I think this probably occurred if I had to put my money on it. We can see how he lands really awkwardly. That foot is in a very significantly plantar flexed position. As the foot comes up, it kind of releases funny out to the side, implying there was some rotational stress on the ankle. And so I think it was probably that part of this run play where the injury would have occurred, because my guess, just the way he lands directly on it, that forced plantar flexion, he's coming down, I think this is going to be when we saw the injury. And then this is that same sequence in that play, but from the side, where you can see how much plantar flexion load is right there in his ankle. So right in that position, you can see how he's really coming down, ankles plantar flexed, the toes are kind of anchored securely into the turf, and then it releases off. And so I could see this being a moment where, again, if anything on this play, that was when that injury would have occurred. So now let's flip to our biodigital anatomy tool and think about which structures could be fractured. If we take them at their word that this is an ankle fracture, there really is only 3 different bones that could be involved, right? A fracture is an injury to a bone, so there's 3 bones we can worry about. Number 1, the calcaneus. What you need to think about with the calcaneus is the Achilles tendon comes down into the backside of the calcaneus. Most of the time when somebody has an Achilles injury, they will tear the tendon proper. However, you can also get what's called an avulsion fracture, where the Achilles tendon pulls off a piece of bone from the calcaneus. And so technically it's an ankle fracture, but it's an ankle fracture that acts like an Achilles tendon injury, right? That position where he's going down on the turf and we see that foot really significantly plantar flexed into the ground. Could that potentially have caused some load through the Achilles complex? Yeah, sure. And so I think this is a reasonable thing to have on our differential. The second bone that we have to worry about for an ankle fracture is going to be the lateral malleolus, which is the distal, the lower part of the fibula. Now we're going to get rid of some of these structures here that really don't need to be in the screen. So we're going to hide our anterior compartment. We're going to hide our lateral compartment of that lower leg. And then we see really nice the ligaments, anterior talofibular ligament. Let's get rid of that a little bit. The calcaneofibular ligament, and then the posterior talofibular ligament. Those are going to be the ligaments injured when you have an ankle sprain. And remember, the same mechanism that can cause an ankle sprain, if a significant amount of inversion occurs, you can cause a fracture to that distal fibula. I don't see anything here that would make me worry about like a high ankle sprain. Usually a high ankle sprain, there's going to be some sort of forced load. If we flip around to the medial side of the ankle, that's where we get into that medial malleolus. So the medial malleolus is the lower portion of the tibia, that bump on the inside of your ankle. And these structures are going to be under load when you have a lot of eversion force. So that other part of that run play where he's going to the side, his foot plants in to change direction, that eversion on the foot can potentially pull at the deltoid. The deltoid can pull at the medial malleolus, and you can get an avulsion fracture of this medial malleolus bone, which would definitely be something that could be surgical. The talus, yes, the talus is technically going to be part of the ankle joint, but I would be surprised if this is a significant talus fracture. Usually, I mean, he shouldn't have really hard time bearing weight. I don't think he would have been able to go down the field and do the kneel play. And so I think either something like medial malleolus, distal fibula, less likely, and then also keep in mind the possibility of a calcaneus fracture that acts more like an Achilles tendon avulsion. This is downright shocking. Like, I'll admit, to have an injury that is so clearly right away something that needs surgery within like minutes of the game ending means like there's no doubt about it on x-ray, right? There are some fractures you see on x-ray. We saw Daniel Jones, right? He was able to play through a fracture in his lower leg. So the fact that they right away said this needs surgery means this was like a big thing. This was something like an Achilles avulsion. This was a medial malleolus fracture. This was an unstable like distal fibula bimalleolar fracture. Bo Nix is insanely tough. Like, I don't think this happened on the kneel down play. There just isn't enough force going through his ankle, right? He's just standing there and going down. I think it probably did happen on that designed run, which is what Peyton said. Some degree of that excessive amount of eversion. Remember, he could have been dealing with an injury before. He could have had something like a stress fracture going on in the ankle that just suddenly reached a tipping point. It's still very surprising, and props to him that he was able to step back and make that pass down the field to Mims because he planted on his bad ankle and was able to connect it. Absolutely heroic, unbelievable. Most ankle fractures too should not have any like effect into the following season. You know, even if this was something like the Achilles avulsion, that's going to be a quicker thing to treat than having to wait for the whole tendon to heal with a repair. So I hope we get some more details in the coming days because I think it'll be interesting to look back. Like I said, probably do think it was on that run play, either the step before where the ankle went into a little bit of eversion or the subsequent when his foot came down hard into plantar flexion. That's it for the video, everybody. Still a mystery to me as much as it is to you all, but hopefully this was interesting to kind of hear my thought process looking at the footage. Let me know as always any questions or comments down below, and we'll see you in the next video.